Hello, welcome to my presentation video on installation of SPDs. My name is Martin Hlavečka and in this video I'm going to talk about connection, cabling rules and installation examples of a supermarket. Connection. One of the essential characteristics of the protection of equipment is the maximum voltage protection level that the equipment can withstand at its terminals. Accordingly, an SPD should be chosen with a voltage protection level UP adapted to the protection of the equipment. The total length of the connection conductors is L1 plus L2 plus L3. Figure J39 shows how to connect an SPD in a plastic enclosure. In the case of a switchgear assembly in a metallic enclosure, it may be wise to connect the SPD directly to the metallic enclosure, with the enclosure being used as a protective conductor. This arrangement complies with the standard IEC 61439-2, and the assembly manufacturer must make sure that the characteristics of the enclosure make this use possible. The recommended minimum conductor cross-section takes into account flow of the lighting current wave under a maximum voltage drop. Unlike applications at 50 Hz, the phenomenon of lighting being high frequency, the increase in the conductor cross-section does not greatly reduce its high frequency impedance. The conductor must resist a short circuit current during the maximum protection system cutoff time. IEC 60364 recommends at the installation incoming end a minimum cross-section of 4 mm squared copper conductor for connection of Type 2 SPD or 16 mm squared copper conductor for connection of Type 1 SPD. Cabling rules. On this slide, you can see an example of a good and bad SPD installations. The first rule to comply with is that the length of the SPD connections between the network and the earthing terminal block should not exceed 50 centimeters. Figure J42 shows the two possibilities for the connection of an SPD with separate or integrated external short circuit protection device. The second rule is that the conductors of protected outgoing feeders should be connected to the terminals of the external short circuit protection device or the SPD and should be separate physically from the polluted incoming conductors. Figure J43, the connections of the protected outgoing feeders are to the right of the SPD terminals. The third rule is that the incoming feeder phase, neutral, and protection conductors should run one beside another to reduce the loop surface. The fourth rule is that the incoming conductors of the SPD should be remote from the protected outgoing conductors to avoid polluting them by coupling. The fifth rule is that the cables should be pinned against the metallic parts of the enclosure to minimize the surface of the frame loop and hence benefit from a shielding effect against EM disturbances. In all cases, it must be checked that the frames of switchboards and enclosures are earthed via very short connections. Finally, if shielded cables are used, big lengths should be avoided because they reduce the efficiency of shielding. Installation examples. In figure J45, you can see an installation example of a supermarket. The surge arrestor selection guide has made it possible to determine the precise value of the surge arrestor at the incoming end of the installation and that of the associated disconnection circuit breaker. As the sensitive devices are located more than 10 meters from the incoming protection device, the fine protection surge arresters must be installed as close as possible to the loads. To ensure better continuity of service for cold room areas, superimmunized type residual current circuit breakers will be used to avoid noisy and stripping caused by the rise in earth potential as the lighting wave passes through. For protection against atmospheric voltages, it is installed a surge arrestor in the main switchboard. It is installed a fine protection surge arrestor in each switchboard supplying the sensitive devices situated more than 10 meters from the incoming surge arrestor. And it is installed a surge arrestor on the telecommunication network to protect the devices supplied, for example, fire alarms, modems, telephones, and faxes. For cabling, it is recommended to ensure the equipotentiality of the earth termination of the building and reduce the loop power supply cable areas. For installation, it is recommended to install a surge arrestor with I max equal to 40 kA and an IC60 disconnection circuit breaker rated at the 40 amps and to install fine protection surge arresters with I max equal to 8 kA and the associated IC60 disconnection circuit breakers rated at 10 amps. This is the end of this presentation. Thanks for watching.